Testing, testing. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر الذي له الأسماء الحسنى والصفات العلى الهادي العليم الغفور الودود وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد الذي أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبع هداه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كلام الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. So this is the 8th broadcast from the readings of the book, The Explanation of Umdatul Fiqh by Sheikh Abdul Aziz Al-Rajihi. The original text is by Al-Imam Ibn Qudama Al-Maqdisi, rahimahullah ta'ala. I like to, in the beginning of this dars, of this reading, I like to welcome the brothers and sisters, wherever they may be, and I'd like to welcome, or wherever they may be, and whenever they may hear this, and I'd like to welcome in particular the brothers and sisters from the Atlantic City area, the brothers and sisters from the in Alabama, and brothers and sisters, barakallahu fikum, in the Newark area and anywhere, in all areas. May Allah bless you all, give you all success. Welcome, hayakum Allah, wa marhaban wa ahlan wa sahlan. We're still in the chapter about purification, the section about using the bathroom, using the toilet specifically. In the last class, and just to review, inshallah, the last class we talked about a few different things. I can't remember exactly where we started last class, but The author, or when a person needs to use the toilet, when a person needs to use the toilet, and he's close to people, what should the person do? Let's say you're out in the woods somewhere camping and you need to use the bathroom, you need to use the toilet. What should you do? The author of the original text, he says, in kana fil qada ab'ada wastatar. If the person is out in the open and he needs to use the bathroom, he needs to use the toilet, he needs to relieve himself, he distances himself from the people and covers himself. The person distances himself from the people and he covers himself. And that's because the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as is mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, يعني كان إذا أراد قضاء الحاجة أبعد واستتر عن الأعين. When the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he needed to relieve himself. He distanced himself from the people and he covered himself from the eyes of the people. Right? Yeah, I mean, nowadays, most of our lives, most of us, most of us, I would say, we spend most of our time in buildings and whatnot, in and out of buildings. When you need to use the bathroom, you need to relieve yourself, you're gonna go to the bathroom. You're gonna go to a bathroom and find a toilet. And you're gonna distance yourself from the people and you're gonna be covered from the people. Right? But if you're out in the open, if you're in somewhere like you're out camping or picnic or something like that, and there's no bathrooms, there are no bathrooms around, right? Then you take that same methodology, which is actually a prophetic methodology. You distance yourself from the people and you cover yourself. Right. Likewise, you out in the open, there are no bathrooms. You're in the woods, so on and so forth. There are no bathrooms. What kind of you need to relieve yourself? What kind of place do you choose? The author, he said that you choose a place that is soft, right? Such that the urine, if you're urinating, such that the urine won't splash on you, right? And you don't urinate in, holes and cracks that are the dwelling places of animals. You don't see an ant mound or ant hill and use the bathroom in the ant hill or any type of weird thing like that. You don't see a what might be a turtle's the place where turtles have laid their eggs or some kind of other dwelling place of an animal and use the bathroom there. You don't do that. That's not from the Sunnah, right? Type. What's the ruling on facing the Qibla or putting your back to the Qibla when you use the bathroom? There's some details and there's some differing in this issue. And in summary, the Sheikh Abdul Aziz Al-Rajihi, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, he said that when you're outside, you shouldn't face the Qibla and you shouldn't turn your back to it when you're urinating or defecating, because of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said, the hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim, right? There's a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إذا أتيتم البول أو الغائط فلا تستقبلوا القبلة ولا تستدبروها ولكن شرقوا أو غربوا. When you need to urinate or defecate, don't face the Qibla and don't turn your back. Yani is east and west. That's as it relates to people who the Qibla is north and south, right? Because the people of Medina, the Qibla is south from them, right? So this is one hadith. However, we find another hadith, the hadith of Abdullah bin Umar, where he stayed at the house of his sister Hafsa, and he found the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam facing he was facing Sham, and his back was in the direction of the Qibla, and he was relieving himself. Type. The Sheikh, he says that what's correct is that when you're inside a building, you can face the direction of the Qibla, or you can turn your back to the direction of the Qibla if you're inside the building, based on this hadith. When you're not inside a building, then the hadith that you act upon is the hadith of where the Prophet ﷺ said, don't face the, yani when you're outside, where the Prophet said, don't face the Qibla and don't turn your back to it when you are urinating or defecating. The Sheikh, he said that the principle is that when the Messenger of Allah does something, prohibits something, and then does it, it shows that this thing's makruh, right? It shows that it's not haram. And the Sheikh, he says what's correct is when you're inside a building or structure like this, then whatever direction you face is fine. And when you're outside in the open, then you don't face the Qibla, and you don't turn your back to it either. Ibn Qudama, he said that when a person finishes urinating, he grabs his member, his private part, and he sort of shakes it 3 times. The explainer, he says, meaning he kind of like tries to squeeze any remaining urine out, right? 3 times. The Sheikh, he says he does this 3 times to try to, make sure it's nothing remaining. Then he says, هذا الذي ذهب إليه المصنف لا دليل عليه. This what the author just mentioned, there's no proof for this. وإنما هو من البدع. He said, rather this is innovation. This is a type of innovation. وهذا الفعل يسبب سلسا ووسواس. This action can lead to a person having a problem with urine leaking, and it can lead to or it causes urine to leak, yani salas al-bawl, and it can cause the person to have whispers. The person can, he's gonna always be like, man, did some stuff just come out? Did it not? Did something just happen? Did it not? I don't know. Maybe I gotta pray again. Right? And Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he has a discussion on this in his book Ighathatul Lihfan, where he mentions that some of the scholars mention a lot of different type of things. Run up some steps and run down real fast and do like almost like you doing squats, and you squat down real fast, and all this stuff. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim, he said all this stuff is innovation. There's no proof for any of this. The author, he continues, he says, لكن إذا كان سيبقى, if there are some drops or whatever left, فإنه ينتظر قليلا حتى تنقطع. The person, he waits a while until the urine finishes coming out, right? ولا يفعل هذا النتر, and the person doesn't do all of this other stuff that the author just previously mentioned. He says, "Wala." Original author, he says, "Wala yamassa dhakarahu biyaminihi, wala yastajmiru biha." The person is not to touch his private part with his right hand while he is urinating. The author, he says, meaning he doesn't touch his private part with his right hand while he's urinating. This is haram. This is prohibited. كما جاء في الصحيح, as is mentioned in Sahih, لا يمسكن أحدكم ذكره بيمينه وهو يبول. A person must not grab his private part with his right hand while he is urinating. In other words, you have to use your left hand. ولا يتمسح من الخلاء بيمينه. And a person nor should a person wipe himself after using the toilet. A person should not with his right hand. He says, "Wal aslu fi nahyi at-tahrim illa li sarf." And this is a principle in usul al-fiqh, and this is also a benefit for brothers who spent time studying the Arabic language, nahu, and wonder when it was going to click. If you studied nahu, and you understood nahu, you'll have a pretty you studying usul al-fiqh will be easier for you. When you study usul al-fiqh will be easier for you. The Sheikh, he mentions a principle. He says that the foundation or the general principle when there's a prohibition, when the Prophet mentions that something is prohibited, the general understanding is that thing is haram, right? Except when there is a sarif, which is another text that lessens the ruling, changes the ruling. Another text that changes the ruling. The Sheikh, he says, "Ay la yamassa dhakarahu biyaminihi wa huwa yabul hadha muharram." I read that already. Type. He says, "وقد جاء النهي عن أن يمس ذكره بيمينه حال البول." He said, and the prohibition has come. The whole prohibition has come about touching the private part with the right hand while you're urinating. He says, لأنه قد يصيب اليمين قد يصيب اليمين شيء من البول. The right hand can be, you can get, if you're urinating and you use your right hand to hold yourself or to clean yourself or whatever, you can get some urine on your right hand. وهي مكرمة, and the right hand is the noble hand, right? In other words, you're supposed to use your left hand. لكن لو مسه في غير البول لا يصيب اليد شيء. لا يصيب اليد شيء. The Sheikh, he says, however, if he uses his right hand and when he's not urinating, right? If he uses his right hand when he's not urinating, then nothing will get on the hand, right? Then he says, لكن الأولى أن لا يمسه. He said, however, what is better is that he does not use his right hand. And translators note what seems to be the case is that the Sheikh is talking about when you're urinating and cleaning yourself specifically, right? Not in other situations. What seems to be the case, and Allah Ta'ala knows best, is that the Sheikh is talking about when you are using the bathroom after you've used the bathroom and cleaning yourself, right? Not in general. Like, I mean, we know he's talking about that. We this last sentence, he says, like in the Ola, he mentions outside of urinating. And what seems to be the case is he's talking about, and he specifically after you finish urinating, you're not urinating anymore, and you use your right hand. He said this is, nothing will, he won't get anything on him, but it's better that he doesn't use his right hand in this situation. وَقَوْلُهُ لَا يَسْتَجْمِرُ بِهَا. The person should not wipe himself. The person should not wipe himself with his right hand. Right? After you use the bathroom, you should not use your right hand to clean yourself with tissue. Right? لكن يستعين بها في حمل الحجر ونحوه. However, the person can, he can use his right hand to help him, like by carrying or grabbing or moving the stone or tissue. Maybe the tissue is on the right side. You're sitting on the toilet. The tissue dispenser is on the right side. You grab the tissue with your right hand, pass it to your left hand, for example. This sort of thing. No problem. He says, right, he carries the stone and in most cases tissue with his right hand, and then he takes it with his left hand, and then he cleans himself. لما في الحديث المتقدم. He said because of what is in the hadith, the previous hadith, لا يتمسح عن من الخلاء بيمينه. Right? So it's not permissible to wipe yourself with your right hand because of the hadith that was just mentioned. ولا يتمسح من الخلاء بيمينه. A person must not clean himself with his right hand, after using the bathroom. He says, وَالتَّمَسُّحُ وَالِهْرَ بِمَعْنَى واحد. Right? The tamassah and the istijmar have the same meaning. Right? Some ahadith mention yastajmir, some mention yatamassah. Right. He says, وَلَا يَمَسَّ ذَكَرَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ وَهُوَ يَبُولُ. The Shaykh says, فَلَا يَمَسَّ ذَكَرَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ وَهُوَ يَبُولُ. A person should not touch his penis with his right hand while he is urinating. وَلَا يَتَمَسَّحْ وَلَا يَسْتَجْمِرْ بِالْيَمِينِ. And the person should not wipe himself with his right hand. فَكُلُّ هَذَا لَا يَجُوزُ. All of this is haram. All of this is haram. He says, in other words, you use your left hand. You wipe yourself with your left hand. ثُمَّ يَسْتَجْمِرُ وِتْرًا وَيَسْتَنْجِي ثُمَّ يَسْتَنْجِي بِالْمَاءِ. Right? The person wipes himself with odd numbers, with an odd number of wipes. Right? You're using tissue, stone. Yeah, and it's permissible to use other things other than tissue. But what's the case most of the time is tissue. So the person wipes himself with an odd number of wipes, and then he uses water. Then he cleans himself with water. The Sheikh says, meaning that the person يقطع استجماره على وتر. The person discontinues his istijmar, which is wiping, with an odd number. A person wipes himself an odd number of times. He says, وَهَذَا أَفْضَلُ. This is better. لِقَوْلِهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the statement of the Messenger of Allah, مَنْ اسْتَجْمَرَ فَلْيُوتِرْ. Whoever does the istijmar, or when a person does the istijmar, he should do an odd number. فَلْيُوتِرْ. Right? The Sheikh, he says, فَإِذَا اسْتَجْمَرَ وَأَنْقَى بِأَرْبَعَةِ أَحْجَارٍ. If the person wipes himself and he is clean after three wipes, right? Istajmar, yani with a stone, in most cases with some tissue. Person cleans himself after 3 wipes. فإن الأفضل أن يزيد خامسا حتى يقطع على وتر. What's better, the Sheikh, he says, what's better is that a person does one more wipe so that he finishes with an odd number of wipes. That's according to the hadith. right? Man istajmara falyutir. Whoever, when a person is wiping himself after relieving himself, he should do an odd number of wipes. وإن أنقى بستة أحجار فالأفضل أن يزيد سابعا حتى يقطع على وتر. And if a person is clean after using six stones, he should do one more. Yani in most cases, as we mentioned, tissue. If a person finds himself clean after wiping 6 times, he should increase and do one more wipe so that he will have finished with an odd number. ثم يستنجي بالماء. Then the istinja بالماء. It's better for the person do both wiping and using water. It's better to do both. He says, وَإِنْ اكْتَفَى بِالْمَاءِ وَحْدَهُ أَجْزَأَهُ. If the person uses only water, that's fine. That's sufficient. وَإِنْ اكْتَفَى بِالْحِجَارَةِ أَجْزَأَهُ بالشرط الذي سيذكرها المصنف. If a person uses الحجارة, stones, يعني, or tissue, then this is sufficient with the conditions that the author is going to mention. The author continues. He says, if a person only does wiping with stones or tissue, in most cases, if a person only wipes, this is sufficient. But it's only sufficient if it's only sufficient as long as the urine or the defecation has not gone beyond the area. Once again, it's only sufficient to use wiping, tissue, and other than tissue of the things that are permissible to use. It's only permissible to do only wiping if the urine or the defecation has not gone. Switch hands. It's only permissible to use wiping if the urine or the defecation has not gone beyond the area where it comes out of. Right? Explaining, he says, أي إنما يجزئه الاقتصار على الاستجمار بالحجارة إذا لم يتجاوز الخارج موضع العادة. Explaining, he says it's only permissible to do wiping by itself if the urine or the defecation, the kharij that was coming out, right? The urine or the defecation has not gone beyond the normal area. فلا يتجاوز في البول رأس الذكر. When in terms of urination or urinating, the urine does not go beyond the beginning, the tip of the private part. ولا يتجاوز الغائط الدبر فينشر إلى صفحتين. And the defecation does not go past the rectum, right? By spreading to the rest of the the buttocks. فأما إذا تجاوز ذلك فلا يجزئه إلا الماء. If the urine goes past the tip of the private part, or the defecation goes past the rectum or the anus and to the buttocks and so forth, or even further, then the person has to use water. Right? He says, ولا يجزئه أقل من ثلاث مسحات منقية. In terms of wiping, it's the person has to use at least 3 wipes, at least 3. The author, he explains the explainer, he says إذا أراد أن يقتصر على الأحجار فلا بد أن تكون ثلاث مساحات منقية أو 3 مساحات منقية مساحات. طيب, if the person wants to do only wiping, the person has to do at least 3 wipes. 3 wipes فأكثر or more. فإن مسح بحجر أو حجرين ولو أنقى فهذا لا يجزئه. If the person cleans with 1 wipe or 2, that's not enough. Has to be 3. He has to clean himself with at least 3. وذلك لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. That's because of the statement of the Messenger of Allah, لا يستنجي أحدكم بدون ثلاثة أحجار. No person should wipe with less than 3 stones, or 3, in our case, in most cases, 3 pieces of tissue. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بثلاثة أحجار, because the Prophet ordered with at least 3 stones. قال إنها تجزئ عنه. He said those 3 are sufficient for him. Or those 3 are, if they clean a person enough, those 3 are enough. وفي حديث ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه, in the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, Abi Abdurrahman Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he says, أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الغائط فأمرني أن آتيه بثلاثة أحجار. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم needed to use the bathroom, so he ordered me. He needed to relieve himself, so he ordered me to bring him 3 stones. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he says, فوجدت حجرين. I found 2 stones. والتمست الثالثة فلم أجده. I searched for a 3rd and I couldn't find it. فأخذت روثة فأتيته بها. I found some dung and I came to the Messenger of Allah with it. فأخذ الحجرين وألقى الروثة. I took the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took the 2 stones. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took the 2 stones and he threw the dung. He says this is riks. This is something that was called riks. وفي لفظ ائتني بغيرها. In another narration, the Prophet said, bring me something different. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بثلاثة أحجار. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم ordered that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud bring him 3 stones. فلا يجزئ أقل من ثلاثة أحجار. So a person has to use at least 3 stones, 3 pieces of tissue. إذا أراد الاقتصار عليها, if the person wants to only use tissue. طيب, he says فإذا لم تنقي الثلاث زاد رابعة فإن أنقر ب4 مساحات فالأفضل أن يزيد 5 حتى يقطع على وتر كما تقدم. The Sheikh, he says, if a person uses 3, if 3 is not, or didn't clean the person, and then the person used the 4th and the 4th one cleaned him, he says it's better for the person to do a 5th so that he can stop on an odd number, as is mentioned previously, in the hadith. أما إن أراد أن يجمع بينهما فلو استجمر بحجر واحد أو حجرين ثم استنجى بعده بالماء فلا بأس. He said if the person wants to use water and wiping and water, right? He says even if the person only wiped once or twice and then he made istinja, he said it's no problem. It's no problem. And that is permissible. The Sheikh, he says ويجوز الاستجمار بكل طاهر يكون منقيا إلا الروث والعظام وما له حرمة. the author, he says it's permissible to use anything to wipe up for a person to wipe himself with, as long as anything that's pure and it can clean, except a roth, right, which is dung, and idam, which is bones, and barakallahu fikum, things that are haram, or things that are haram or sacred, right? Right. The author continues, or the explainer, he says, meaning that it's permissible to wipe. It's permissible for a person to wipe himself with anything that can clean him, whether that be a stone or stones, yani rock, or rocks that are made of clay, or wood, or tissue, right, or paper, right? He says, but you can't use glass, right? You can't use glass. He says, likewise, it's not permissible to use roth, right? And it's not permissible to use bones. And there is a prohibition about these two. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, لا تستنجوا بالعظام والروث فإنهما زاد إخوانكم من الجن. Right? He says it's not permissible to use the dung or the bones, because those are the provisions of your brothers. The Prophet said those are the provisions of your brothers of the jinns. Type. He says, وحين جاءه نصيبين وسألوه الطعام قال لكم كل عظم ذكر اسم الله عليه يقع في أيديكم أوفر ما يكون لحما وكل بعرة علف لدوابكم. When the jinns came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says nasibain. I'm not sure what this word means, but they asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about food. The Prophet said, "You guys, for you is every bone that Allah's name was mentioned over, right? That falls in your hands. It's gonna have it's gonna have much meat on it, and every type of fertilizer from your animals, every type of dung from your animals." The Messenger of Allah said, فَلَا تَسْتَنْجُوا بِهِمَا فَإِنَّهُمَا طَعَامُ إِخْوَانِكُم. Don't wipe yourselves with bones and dung, because these are the provisions of your brothers from the jinn. The Sheikh, he says it was mentioned in another hadith. That hadith that I just previously mentioned is a Muslim. He says, and it's mentioned in another hadith, إِنَّهُمَا لَا يُطَهِّرَانِ. These two things, the bones and the dung, they don't purify. The hadith, yani this is the takhrijat, the commentary on the ahadith about the authenticity and where it's narrated is by the author himself. And he mentions that this particular narration is mentioned by Darqutni, and he said it's authentic, as well as Ibn Hajar said it was authentic, and Al-Dhahabi said it was da'if. So in the hadith, that one hadith, it's mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ said they don't purify. فَيَكُونُ الْإِسْتِنْجَاءُ بِالْعِظَامِ وَالرَّوْثِ مَمْنُوعًا لِأَمْرَيْنِ. He said, therefore, wiping with bones and defecation, or dung, is prohibited for two reasons. One, أنه يفسدهما على إخوانه من الجن. The person will make these things not usable for the jinns, for their brothers, for our brothers of the jinns. The second thing is أنهما لا يطهران. These two things do not purify. وكذلك كل محترم. He said, likewise, everything that is respected, like the books of knowledge. I mean, you can't use a book of knowledge. A person can't use a book of knowledge to clean himself. What ta'am, likewise, food. I mean, you can't be like, let me take this spinach and these spinach leaves, or these, let me take these lettuce leaves and clean myself. Let me take this soft burrito shell and clean. Nah, you can't do that kind of stuff. وَيَحْرُمْ عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ أَن يَسْتَجْمِرَ بِهَا. It's haram for a person to use these sorts of things as for wiping himself. وَكَذَلِكَ طَعَامُ الدَّوَابِ. Likewise, the food, animal food, you can't use to clean yourself. لأنه يفسدها أيضا, because it also makes it not usable, corrupts it. And يستجمر, right? فلا ينبغي أن يستجمر بها أن يستجمر به. He says, so it's not suitable for a person to use such things for wiping himself. وما عدا ذلك فإنه يستجمر به. He's saying other things, the other things other than these, and of course this thing similar, other things can be used for al-istijmar. Other things can be used for al-istijmar, a person wiping himself from urinating or defecation. And with that is the end of today's reading. Allah Ta'ala help us rectify our affairs, purify our hearts, guide us and our families and our children. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.